Cherie Blair, thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, it's a great thrill to be here on your world tour, and what a fantastic day we've had so far.
Yeah, we really have. And so I really want to start by talking about the Cherie Blair Foundation. And it really has a personal touch for you. Why women, girls, and technology?
Because it's really my story. When I go back to growing up as a working class girl in Liverpool, when I was 8, my father abandoned my mother and my sister and I, and so my mother found herself having to go out to work and support her 2 children on her own. And that taught me from a very early age that, you know, as a woman, it's really important that you have that independence to make your own money and to keep and spend your own money. And that drove me throughout my own career as a lawyer and throughout that time. In fact, there was a time when my husband was an MP, and when I was actually the main breadwinner in our family. So, you know, even more so, I was very driven by the idea that a woman who's economically empowered can make decisions and make the right decisions for herself and her family. But why technology? Because actually, you know, I'm a bit of a techie. I don't know how that really happened, but I do know when it happened. And it happened way back in 1988 when my daughter, I was pregnant with my daughter, and as I went on my 10 days maternity leave, do not do that, anybody.
10 days.
Yeah, that was stupid. My law firm had moved over to an account system which was computer-based, and as part of that, before that, it was all written in ledgers by hand. And as part of that came 2 Olivetti PCs with WordPerfect 5 on. And all the men, there was only me as a woman, all the men sort of looked and said, what on earth do we do with these things? And I said, well, I did typing, you know, when I was at university. So I took it away with me. I taught myself how to use that, how to develop some sort of macros and things to automate some of the processes that we do in the law. And 2 years after that, I was chair of the Bar of England and Wales IT committee, telling lawyers how technology could transform their lives. Then my husband becomes Prime Minister, and I go into number 10 Downing Street and carry on working. And I would never have been able to do that if it hadn't been for the fact that because of our work's intranet, because of emails, that I could actually be working in 10 Downing Street and advising my legal clients, and then stopping for a moment, going downstairs and having tea with the First Lady of Gabon or whatever it might be, and then going back. So when my husband left 10 Downing Street, I thought, you know, if a fortunate woman like me has been able to do so much because of technology, surely it should be possible to help women in the developing and emerging markets by using technology to get that access to the world and to the flexibility and to the knowledge that being tech savvy brings. And so that's why I married entrepreneurship, women, and technology.
I think these threes, we've talked about, there's 3 of a lot of things, and some of the key points that you have brought up in the story really come back to the 3 C's of the Cherie Blair Foundation: confidence, capacity, and capital.
Exactly.
Tell me a little bit about how those play into the foundation.
Well, you know, the extraordinary thing about the work we do in around the world, but particularly in the developing emerging markets, is that we are working with women who are often in societies which tell them what they can't. You know, they can't do this, they can't do that. You know, even in the US and in the UK, women tend to somehow be less confident than the men in their abilities. So I think confidence building is a really important thing for women to be a success. So, and how do we do that? Well, we do that by, in our programs, working with women and giving them the skills to both learn to value themselves and learn to be confident about how they can speak up and present themselves. Capacity is obvious in some ways. I mean, I wouldn't be where I was today were it not for the education I had and the opportunities that I had. And again, in the areas where we work, so often the boys get educated before the girls. Like sometimes the boys get fed before the girls in some of the places we are. And I feel very passionately that education isn't just something that happens between the ages of 3 and 19 or 3 and 21, but actually education is something that happens throughout our lives, and in particular in relation to skills training and skills building. That is something that everyone should do at every stage of their life. So, for example, one of the programs that we do is what we call the Road to Growth program, which is in Nigeria. And what that is we do a blended learning 3-month kind of business skills training, which is the students meet for a couple of occasions, but most of the classroom learning and delivery is done on tablet computers, so they can carry on with their business and they are still being able to learn on the job. These are the sort of things that we do in relation to capacity building. And then finally, of course, access to capital. I have to tell you, that's the hardest bit. We are always looking to seeing how we can introduce our women to finding different ways of getting access to finance. And technology, of course, is very much moving into that area with a lot of the sort of crowd financing type of platforms. And so we're very keen to help team up with people who are looking at those kind of things to get money to the women who've already been on our programs, because there's money now around, and we like to think of ourselves as perhaps helping with the supply chain. So the money is there, but they're looking for people to loan to. And so if we can show them that our women have gone through a sort of program and have learnt the business skills and have got some honed business ideas, then we're not guaranteeing that their business is going to succeed, but at least we're saying that they've got a better chance.
Another key element of the foundation is actually mentorship, which feeds into all 3 of those areas in a lot of ways.
Very much so.
So talk to me a little bit about specific mentorship programs, but also where you see the major differences between possibly people in third world countries and what issues that they're looking for mentors to help them with versus in first world countries.
It's interesting you say that. We have this global mentoring platform. We exist on the web, based here in London. And as a result of that, we are actually in 100 countries across the world. We have women mentees in 100 different geographies. So we bring together these women who need mentors with men and women across the world that we source often through partnerships with companies. And the mentors give 2 hours a month. And one of our mentees described her mentor as the invisible friend who walks with me on my journey for a year. And so what we do is we have an algorithm and we match with skill sets of what women are looking for and what the mentors can offer. And then we also check that with part of our team. But we are not just a dating service. We don't just, it's not like, we don't just put the 2 of you together. We actually support the relationship. If things go wrong, we're there to step in. We train the mentor in mentoring. We have a whole sort of business library and webinars that we do. And then there's a community of both the current mentors and mentees and also the alumni as well.
So one of the things that I think is key is so many of these businesses, again, are around community, are around creating a larger ecosystem for learning, for connecting. And let's be honest, it's not just women. It's men do play a part in this. How can men play the biggest role that they possibly can in supporting equality?
I'm so glad you said that, because I really think sometimes if all we're doing is women talking to other women, we're never going to really move the needle. And so that's why UN campaigns like He for She are so important. It's why today in the conference, when one of your senior executives talked about how he had learned so much from being having sole care for a time of his own children and the challenges that brought, that's what makes it so important. And it's why from the beginning, when we set up the mentoring platform, for example, I was very keen. We're helping women, but our mentors are men and women. So at the moment, we have about 20% of our mentors are men.
Wow.
Some of whom have not only helped one woman, but have done 2 or even 3 because they've come back because they've wanted. We only ask people to do a year, but some people really want to help even more than that. And it's really important because so many of the women that we help around the world have possibly only experienced men who said no to them.
So it's changing an opinion as well.
Yeah, it's helping for them to see that actually, you know, there are good men out there who, you know, really take pleasure in the achievements of women.
And so on that same line as we have to have everyone involved and to bring equality, what is the role of businesses, private businesses? Mark Benioff has said that the business of doing business is making the world a better place. How much responsibility does lie on private businesses versus the public sector?
Well, I see it very much as a partnership. You have to have, because businesses have their own set of skills and techniques which are really very valuable, particularly in the social sector, where sometimes perhaps there's less rigor around some of the economics of the organization and more caring, which, you know, but you can't have caring unless you also have the discipline around how you organize your caring, if you like. And it's also really important that you have the government side to that as well, because I'm a strong believer in businesses have a role to play, but it's not businesses' role to run a country, and it's not businesses' role to provide the services that make a country run well, but it is businesses' roles to participate in making the country a better place, as you said.
Well, thank you so much for blazing such incredible trails and making a difference for women, men, the world, and using technology to make it happen.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for the two of us being so bright.
We are bright.